What's up, everybody? It's Josh, and yeah, a rare DC video coming at you from me, guys, but the absolute unprecedented insanity of yesterday made me sit down and record a video about DC, David Zaslav, the Batman, a possible DC EU reboot, and so that's what we're going to get into in this video. Look, a couple of things I want to say off the bat. Number one, don't know for sure what any of this means, okay? This is happening. It's kind of breaking. Even yesterday, the New York Post came out with this report. All kinds of people, Hollywood insiders, scoopers, insiders, everybody was like, this is not true, it's fake news, and also, screw you, New York Post, or whatever, right? And then later on in the day, it actually made its way around Hollywood sources and came out in the trades, first confirmed by the Wrap, then by Deadline. So what that means is that Zaslav was kind of moving in silence here, cut this thing out. People in Hollywood found out after the New York Post. So yeah, crazy, unprecedented times. And I think right now, a lot of different people, including myself, are trying to make sense of this and trying to figure out what it means. Take it all with a grain of salt, guys. There's a big thing happening tomorrow for HBO, for Discovery. I believe it's like quarterly earnings and some kind of shareholder meeting. And we expect even more shows to be canceled. There's crazy reports that HBO Max itself is going to be put into Discovery Plus, that there's not actually going to be an HBO Max app at all anymore. So this is just like the beginning of probably many, many other stories that are going to happen. And at the end of this, we'll be able to make sense of what is going on. Now, having said that, and admitting that when we get into the speculation, we talk about some of the other reports we don't know for sure, I think there are a couple of things that are unquestionably going on. Like, there are a couple of things you just cannot deny. And the first one is that David Zaslav is not afraid to take major losses, and he's not afraid to piss some people off. I mean, just look at the way most people are talking about this story on social media. A lot of people really upset. A lot of people sort of bleeding heart, feeling bad for the directors, for the talent, for the people that worked on that movie. And I don't think that's wrong. Like, obviously, yeah, a lot of those people going to be hurt by this decision. This is going to make major waves in Hollywood, and it's already making major waves on social media. This is something like a shot across the bow or a warning to any and everybody that is currently working on DC stuff or trying to build DC stuff for the future, that their stuff is not safe. They should not feel comfortable. It wouldn't make sense for him to make a move like this, eat 90 million, piss off a ton of people in Hollywood, if he wasn't dead set on a vision and a particular plan, and he has an idea of what he wants to do. Now, I need to talk about Grace Randolph's video from yesterday where she broke a lot of this stuff down. And again, let's take all of this with a grain of salt. A lot of what Grace is talking about in her video, I believe, is somewhat speculation. Like, she has heard some things directly, and we're going to talk about those, but I think she's also kind of reading the tea leaves, reading the terrain, and I happen to agree with a lot of the assessments that she made. So some of you guys friggin' hate Grace Randolph, and you're going to freak out that that's kind of what I'm going to cover in this video, but she's kind of the only person out there that has put together a like extensive look while talking to sources and kind of speculation kind of content based on this. And I think she does have very good sources inside Hollywood, but you know, some of you disagree. So according to Grace, this was a move directly made by David Zaslav himself. After watching a screening of The Batgirl, he just simply said this doesn't match up for the vision that he has for the future of DC films. He's talked about this in other interviews, how DC and the IP of DC is some of the most recognizable and iconic on the planet, and he obviously wants to do stuff with DC. This isn't some big plan to sell off DC IP. Now, some people think this might just mean he didn't like the Keaton Batman and this whole multiversal mess of an idea here. I think it's actually way deeper than that. I think that Zaslav looked at this movie and thought it was not up to par standard, and it was just like a wildly different canon than what most people would even know from the Snyder Cut era. And look, David Zaslav has made it no secret that he wants to replicate what Kevin Feige is doing with the MCU. Looking at a movie like that, I mean, he's probably just like, this is not even close to what my vision is, and this will actually maybe even hurt the branding of what I want to do in the future. Now, Grace also says in her video that although she hasn't heard this directly from sources, she wouldn't be surprised if the only DCEU projects that are currently slated to actually see light of day, or I guess the ones that Zaslav won't axe, will be Shazam and will be Black Adam. I mean, they just played over at Comic-Con and they got like no support from the studio, right? Like, they just didn't, and it was way lackluster compared to what Marvel was doing, but that's kind of the point, is that if you look at what was happening with The Flash being canceled, with a truncated season, right? Tons of other stuff being canceled. I mean, some people are talking about Blue Beetle online. Bro, Blue Beetle is gone. Like, there is zero way he's going to just do Blue Beetle. I think even The Rock's DCEU stuff is done. Like, I strongly agree with like the take that Grace has. And honestly, it's a take that I've had for a long time. DC Films is a mess, dude. It is an absolute mess, and they just have no momentum. They're not able to capture the sort of zeitgeist of pop culture in the way that Marvel is, even in the way that Star Wars is. And Star Wars is not really doing incredible in my opinion, but they're doing way better than what DC is doing. And so it seems like Zaslav has a plan, has a vision for what he wants to do with DC Films, and this is his perfect opportunity here to start slashing these movies. I think they are thinking complete and total and clean reboot. And I think that's a brilliant move. They are going to set the old DC universe on fire, sit back, watch it burn, and then rebuild from the ashes. And when it comes to Zaslav, it doesn't just stop with him wanting more of like an MCU type vibe over there. I'm going to show you this right here, which is from an article that comments on Zaslav's take on diversity. Now, this might trigger some of you, and I know some of the discussion around like Blue Beetle, around the Batgirl movie is like they're killing these projects that have a bunch of diverse talent. And yeah, that is true. But here's what Zaslav said about diversity. It's really interesting. He said, as David Zaslav prepared to take over Warner Brothers Discovery Inc., one of the largest media companies in the world, he told friends in Hollywood that he would hire the best people he could find. Gender and racial diversity, while a factor, would not be his top priority, he said, according to multiple people he told. Now, again, that's going to trigger some of you because to some of you, the diversity of these different positions and actors is really, really important. But I'm going to say something kind of controversial here in that I think David Zaslav is right once again. Diversity, absolutely a thing. Totally matters. But when you can't actually nail the stories, the product, make the stuff actually incredible, and you just do diversity in these things, it ends up being pretty unremarkable, and I think mostly unfair to even these people that you want to have represented. I go back to the Reva thing. Reva is not a good character. It's not organic, it doesn't feel natural to the story, and it's just frankly weird. There were all kinds of different little changes that they did to the Reva character to force her to have importance in this canon. And seemingly this was done just for the sake of representation. Again, I'm not saying you can't do something like this with representation in mind, but the story, talent, directing, and execution must absolutely come first. It must be paramount. And right now, you look around in Hollywood, and that's not exactly happening. And so this Batgirl movie, this Blue Beetle movie, all these movies that are coming out, there's good stuff probably in there, but the thing they lack is a cohesive brand vision and a proper DC universe to allow leverage for these fun and exciting stories, right? By the way, DC has an incredibly diverse cast of characters within their comics, and they have a ton of different things they can draw from. But I think in a world where you can't nail Batman, you can't nail Superman, you can't nail the Justice League or the Lantern Corps and actually make a cohesive DCEU, it actually matters very little what diversity you put into the movies that connect together and make up your shared universe. And really, the reason I bring that up is not to cause controversy or to trigger any of you out there, but it's simply to let you know that David Zaslav is thinking very big here, and he's really trying to take Warner Bros. Discovery in a completely new direction. He's doing incredibly bold things, things that go against the grain, things that are pissing off a lot of people in Hollywood and a lot of people on social media. And all of this will actually be good if, and this is an incredibly big if here, if whatever he does with the DC universe after this is dope, cohesive, and connected. And so I think a total reboot with incredible talent is being put together behind the scenes. I think this is the last of the DCEU from the Hamada and even maybe the Snyder adjacent regime. It's all going away, and I think we're getting brand new stuff. And frankly, for me, as a DC fan, this will be the first time I will come to DC with fresh eyes. This will be the first time that I come with actual anticipation, with zero baggage and excitement, actual genuine excitement that maybe this time they'll get it right. Maybe we can start actually working past the origins of these characters. We can stop making content with the characters and instead make new versions of incredible comic book stories. All the things that Marvel does right, DC could be doing right if they would get out of their own way. And I think this reboot is a clean start and a fresh place to begin this idea. But those are my thoughts. I'm sure you have some thoughts. So let me know what you're thinking in the comments section below on this video. You can also come on by one of our live streams where you can ask me about this directly, and I'll share my thoughts with you right then and there. As I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I will see you in the next video.